What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Valley coming at you with the one, the only, the certified fantabulous Mr. Grant Hughes. I'm excited because Grant and I have not talked via video in like a week, which is a really long time for us, for anyone who's paid attention. So we're going to get into we'll talk about if there's any breaking news. I mean, you and I haven't been doing anything this offseason where there's been breaking news yet, so maybe this is the moment. We're going to get into our biggest questions that we still have for the rest of this offseason. We have a bunch. We're going to get to loads. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you want to throw questions in the chat, we welcome it. We'll either throw them up there maybe throughout, or we'll try to get some to the end, depending on timing. But before we get started, Grant, I do care how you're doing, but I just want the listeners to know, since a lot of people are concerned about my caffeine intake, and while we're waiting for stragglers to come in here, these are not two full energy drinks that I'm just drinking. They're separate flavors. And as I was telling you, one, this is a really good flavor. It's iced tea lemonade. This is cherry limeade. I'm disheartened because the Sour Patch Kid Ghost flavors are gone. And you know I loved me some Sour Patch Red Berry. But
R.I.P.
I've been cutting my caffeine intake slightly, and so when I used to allow myself one energy drink per day, I now don't finish it, and it goes in the fridge, and so I get to a point where there's like 6 or 7 that are just open, and there's like dregs, or they're less than half. So I need to be caffeinated. It's been a long day, but I just wanted anyone to know I'm not trying to die on air, if anyone cares.
Like, does chasing one with the other lead to like a weird, like combined flavor? And if so, like which, because cherry limeade and what was the other one? Like an Arnold Palmer flavor?
Basically, iced tea lemonade, yeah.
Yeah. Are they both just so sweet that it's like, well, my taste buds are just turned up to 10 anyway, and it doesn't matter that they're slightly different? Or are there crossover issues?
I think it's just the latter, that they're so sweet. It's like if you mix these together, cherry limeade with iced tea lemonade, it actually might not taste. It'd just be like cherry limeade iced tea lemonade.
Like, this is just sweeter, I guess.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine. I don't have any energy drinks right now. Despite that, I'm feeling fine. I would love to keep talking about this, but I don't think that's what
Cool.
people
Can we
are
talk
here
about? I'm glad that we finally have a thirst trap on this podcast. Like, you're in the tank top. Mort did that the other day. We're really trying to get we're leaning into the OnlyFans element of
Look,
it.
we hired a consultant, and they just were like, listen, you have to do whatever it takes if you want to grow your audience. And I said, I'm willing to do something less than whatever it takes, and so that's why we're here.
With that, let's just dive in right here. We're gonna begin with the trade between the Clippers and the Jazz and the Heat. Are you able to take us through the details, and we'll tackle it from the Clippers' perspective first?
Sure, yeah. So the Clippers side of this is they wind up with John Collins from the Utah Jazz. Miami gets Norman Powell from the Clippers, and Utah gets Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love from Miami, and a 2027 second rounder that is via the Clippers. So 3-teamer here. The Clipper side of this, John Collins, expiring deal. I don't have his salary up in front of me, like 26-ish million, I think. I can look that up as we're discussing it, but quietly had a really good year for the Jazz last season. Hard to be noticed in that environment, but 39.9% from deep. Just looked like a starting power forward that could score. And so now he's on the Clippers, and as part of like we haven't talked about almost anything, but like as part of a really interesting front court rotation now, which like behind Ivica Zubac, which was like a real weakness. What you want to start on the Clippers side of this, or what? We haven't discussed like any of our thoughts about how either of these 3 teams fared.
Yeah, and I have a lot. When we get to the Jazz section is when I have my favorite question on this, but I think, look, the Clippers, they clearly have this 2027 cap space plan when you look at how they set up the James Harden and the Kawhi Leonard contracts, and then there's Bogdan Bogdanovic comes off the books after this. I think it's after next year, excuse me. I think Zubac is like the only real money they have on those books. And so the reporting is that they didn't want to give Norman Powell an extension that would extend past that. I find it fascinating, and this will bleed into something we're going to discuss, that one, the Clippers went from just like having no real backup bigs to now you have John Collins and Brook Lopez on the same team, which I think that fascinates me in the sense where is it going to change the structure of some of their lineups? But the other thing too is just it's interesting that Norman Powell was a borderline all-star on offense for most of last year, and you traded him for a backup big to you, essentially. So, and I don't know if you look at this Clippers team with Brook Lopez on it, does John Collins fill more of a need for them than Norman Powell in your eyes?
So that might be the better question, but I was prepared to come in here with like, is it too much of a hot take to say that the Clippers might have gotten the best player in the deal? Just considering, like, Powell obviously was phenomenal last year before he got hurt, but like all we talked about was how that was such an outlier of a late career leap, right? Like, is this really who he's going to be going forward? And then like Collins is a little younger. He's going into his age 28 season. Like the way I look at it is, I think Collins is like really roughly playing at his level. The shooting was a little bit better, but he's 36% for his career from deep. He's like 16-8 for his career. Like, never a great defender except very early with the Hawks. But like, to answer your question, I think or to answer my question, I think it's not like, what if Collins is just the better player on balance? And then I think if you raise the fit issues of like what he could provide for the Clippers versus what Powell would have offered, I don't know. I'm open to the idea that he just not only is a better fit, but is actually a better player. And that's not to take anything away from Powell, who like just was better last year, full stop. But like, I don't know. I think there's at least an argument to be had. Or are you, I think you maybe were bigger on Powell than I was in general, but what do you think about that?
The close of the season for Powell was rough. And so I think if you believe that John Collins is going to give you more of a playoff bump, and I think they viewed it through the lens of, oh, John Collins might sign something like a 1+1 next summer with a team option. And Powell won't. Like, he's going to want to cash in, especially after the season he just had. So I think that's where they're coming at it from. And I would we have a question on this in it later, so I don't want to get too much into it. So I don't know. To me, I don't know if I view Collins as the best player in this deal. But even if he is, I just feel like Norman Powell might have been the better fit for a Clippers team. Like, when you're looking at who creates off the dribble now, like, that's not really Bogdan Bogdanovic's game anymore. You have Harden. How much can you rely on Kawhi? So I think that's the thing that makes me uneasy. But I think if you sat here and told me they thought John Collins is going to be more valuable to them in the playoffs, or they think, again, that they might just be able to keep him while he comes off the books in 2027, and that they just didn't want to pay Norman Powell's next contract, I get that. But they did treat him, to your point, they gave up the second-round pick. So they treated Norman Powell like the best, John Collins like the best player in this deal because they took on money.
Right.
Like, this was so that was. I'm not saying it was the wrong move, but it was fascinating to me.
Yeah, I think some component is financial. I think some component is like you're selling high on Norman Powell. I think, like, or at least relative to what he was going to be. It's hard to imagine Powell will be better at any point ever again than he was for some of last year. And is aging and like you said, wants that longer deal. Like, I don't know. I mean, really, probably the truth is closer to like, this is kind of a wash. But I do think like what's interesting here is neither of us has really gone down this road. But Wiso says Miami won the trade hands down.
Well, do we want to talk about the Heat now then?
Yeah, I mean, so they moved 2 contracts and get Norman Powell, who, like, I don't know, I'm uneasy. I guess like having another scoring wing is great, like next to Tyler Hero. I don't think you can play him and Hero together, against real lineups probably. Maybe that's a regular season thing. I think he's fine if Davion Mitchell's at the point and then you have Powell on the floor and Hero off. You move off of Anderson and Love, you get that second. I think it's a good move for Miami, but I don't know. Again, I guess I'm just lower on Powell as like being the same guy that he was. Maybe that's where I'm getting hung up. What do you think about it?
So if you're getting Norman Powell and you're about to extend him, which they're limited in what they could offer, it's like, I think it's for the first 6 months, it's like 3 years and between 77 and 80 million. But so if you're getting him under the guise that, he's going to play at a near all-star level, he probably would have made the all-star game in the East last year, by the way, or at least come closer than he did in the West. There's a flaw to that thinking, but if you're another team like the Heat, who I think for the most part, this is why I was shocked that they guaranteed Davion Mitchell money in 2026, because it felt like they were kind of gearing up for next summer. He just fits like they upgraded their expiring contracts to me. So I view it from this team desperately needed, without Jimmy Butler, a primary playmaker and just additional rim pressure, and they always needed shooting. Norman Powell will check 2 of those boxes, and maybe don't, because it's not going to be the playmaking. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched Norman Powell.
It's going up if he touches it.
So, and maybe the rim pressure kind of wanes as he gets older, but I viewed it as, okay, this offense needed that type of punch. It fits. He can play off Tyler Hero, can play off Bam Adebayo, but also, couldn't you, like, isn't there a world in which Norman Powell at midseason gets you more than the Clippers just kind of got for him. Or you could, from the Heat's perspective, say, we got more value out of Norman Powell because we got a pick or something rather than Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love, who probably wouldn't have garnered too much interest at the trade deadline. And I saw a lot of people frame this as, oh, they got off of Kyle Anderson's money for 2026. That money, unless I'm mistaken, is entirely non-guaranteed. So this is really folding two expiring contracts into another. They took on some money, but I think it kind of shows, and this is my question for you, I don't know what Miami's endgame actually is, because I thought maybe this was going to be a gap year, but a Powell deal kind of signals to me that they're not ready to commit long-term to anything, though that certainly changes if we see Powell or Hero or Jovic get an extension. They're not ready to commit to anything, but they're going to try and compete in the Eastern Conference still next season.
I could see that. I could also see it just being a case of, like, I don't know who initiated these conversations, but it's like, you're Miami, you pick up the phone, you're being offered Norman Powell for Anderson Love and not even a pick. Like, that's it. Just so, like, Norman Powell is just more valuable than Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson, as whether it's as a trade asset, whether it's someone you might extend, whether it's just as a rental for this year. So, like, to me, you just say yes, and like that's easy. Whether it's part of like a bigger plan or not, like it's like, what plans would this mess up? You know, unless you just go throw the bag at him and they're in our cap space. Why'd we do that? Like, that doesn't seem like it's likely. That you can start your thinking at that point. But yeah, I think it's just, for what they gave up, you just take Norman Powell at 10 times out of 10, right?
You do, but again, if you were going to go through sort of a quasi gap year where a lot of people think the Heat are set up to be sellers, is this just a trade you make anyway because, okay, it makes us better, but there's a chance that we're able to move him for more value, or it's at least a player we have as bird rights, he goes into free agency. Yeah. So maybe it's something like that. But I think that's the thing I took away from, is because it filled a need. I'm looking at Miami now as, okay, like they are still trying to make the playoffs. It's just they haven't done anything except for bring Davion Mitchell back this offseason. So I kind of just thought that.
I mean, Simone Fontecchio.
The Duncan. Well, that was the other thing. Is like, well, Duncan Robinson, like, rather than give him multi-year money, you take back Simone Fontecchio, who's expiring. So I just find what they're doing a little hazy. But I think that unless you have anything else on the Heat, for the Jazz section, I want to focus on, it's more of a league-wide question, but the Jazz are, like, they've gotten rid of so many expiring contracts this offseason that it makes sense to focus it on them. Grant, have expiring contracts just lost value? Because I think, I'll frame it this way. They bought out Jordan Clarkson, and then they gave up. They attached a pick to Colin Sexton to get Yusuf Nurkic, which I still don't understand. Now you're trading John Collins had a really good year. Like, just from a shooting perspective, like, still, maybe not an anomaly, but, like, gives you that floor stretching, gives you some rebounds, still has some athletic pop. They gave him up for two guys that, they're not only are they backups, but, like, you're just not, like, Kevin Love's not going to stay there. Kyle Anderson, like, is he even going to play? And how much will he play if he does? So I'm looking at this, and I mean, even from the Clippers' perspective, Norman Powell was a borderline offensive all-star last year, and you traded him for a backup big while attaching a second-round pick. Yeah. So I'm just, and like DeAndre Ayton, expiring contract, it was easier to just get $10 million back from him rather than the Blazers trying to turn him in to something or roll him over into a separate kind of asset. Do you think that the relative death of free agency, where everyone's signing extensions, they're incentivized to sign extensions, stars are rather forced trades than just hit the open market, like, are expiring contracts just not as valuable as they used to be? Because I think you could even say, look, cap space isn't just for free agents. Keith Smith says it all the time, and he's right. Yeah. But, like, how often do we just see, like, these monstrous lopsided trades? It's always just teams that are selling. They're probably going to be bad anyway, and so, like, you figure out a way to cobble together contracts. I find it fascinating that it feels like expiring money just is at an all-time low when it comes to their value.
I wonder if what's actually at an all-time low in value is the thing that you used to exchange for expiring contracts, which is like a longer-term deal of similar value just because of the salary matching requirements and trades without, like, overcomplicating things. So, like, I think maybe part of it, at least, is that teams now with the second apron and everything just don't want the 3-year, just to throw numbers out there, the 3-year $100 million deal. They don't want that deal in exchange for the expiring $37 million contract they're trading somewhere with like a pick attached or something. I think it's more just like the stuff you would get for an expiring contract might not be as valuable, or is like it's kind of dangerous because you don't want to put long-term like iffy money on the books. Does that make sense? Like I think the examples you gave pretty clearly suggest that expiring money just isn't that valuable. And like you look at a team like Washington that we're going to talk about how much cap space they could have next summer because they have all these expiring contracts. They don't want to trade those for longer term money for better players or whatever. I think they just want them to come off the books. And like you're seeing more buyouts too. So yeah, the more we talk about it, it does seem like an expiring contract for several reasons just doesn't quite, like it used to be such a valuable thing, right? Like we used to like fetishize those things. They just seemed like they were so useful. But yeah, it doesn't seem like that's the case anymore.
No, it doesn't. Bonus topic here as well from Kirk Golson. Have you all talked about Kelly Olynyk to the Spurs yet? I think that's another expiring contract. Washington ended up they get 2 flyers on Malachi Branham, used to be floater extraordinaire, and Blake Wesley. They get a second-round pick out of it. I like it for the Spurs just because I want them to have as much floor spacing on the floor as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure where you're at with it. Like it's super low risk, but I am starting to worry. Like, are their best floor spacers just now at the 4 and the 5 spots, and that's basically it? I guess that depends on how you feel about Fox, Harper, Devin Vassell, but like it's Barnes, it's Olynyk, and Wemby. I view as like kind of their like most dangerous floor spacers. I don't know where Devin Vassell belongs in all of that. It's tough with Dylan Harper. I have to see him like it. Yeah. So I found that it's like I support it because like you just want spacing around Wemby, but it's Can we get some like perimeter floor space? I know Champagne's there, but like can we get some just like better guard floor spacing around him?
Yeah, I mean they don't have Chip England there. They haven't had him there for years. They're in dire need of a shot doctor, I feel like, for all their guards.
Our next topic is one that you proposed, and I am just in total agreement with it. So you want to take us through it?
Yeah, I guess the header is, what are the Lakers even doing? So we've maybe talked a little bit about this, and I think when we had that was probably on the BR stream when we had Kobe Price on to discuss some Lakers, but everything was kind of so fresh then. I think LeBron had just picked up that player option, which, again, to emphasize the rare, like he's never done that before. And so that kind of got us on the topic of, well, is that because LeBron doesn't want to sign another 1+1? Is that because it was not offered? And in either case, what does that mean for what the Lakers are doing? And then we get the report, I think it was John Gambadoro saying Austin Reeves and LeBron didn't like playing with Luka. Reeves and his agent pushed back on that. But that just
Luka was on the podcast. Like, what is?
They must be best friends. Well, that was recorded like a while ago, I think, from what I could tell. That definitely scratched a little itch I have. Anytime there's like a heliocentric, ball dominant star player, I'm like, nobody fucking likes playing with that guy. I just know it. And so anytime there's little whispers of that, it feels, I don't know, sort of real in my mind. But so the Lakers' plans seem to be fairly like future focused because Dorian Finney-Smith got away, and the Rockets, it turned out, only guaranteed 2 of the 4 years on that deal.
Did he want to leave that bad? Like, I know it was talked about he wanted to get back to Texas, but there's no way. Like,
right. So that introduces another element of like, are the guys on the team looking at where the Lakers are relative to the competition and saying like, this isn't even that good of a situation, like competitively? Or are there other things? Did Finney-Smith decide, I've played with Luka twice now, I'm not interested anymore? I don't know. The DeAndre Ayton signing, I mean, that's good value. Like, neither of us is a huge fan of his, but like, yeah, he's a starting center. I think in a good situation where he's being spoon-fed and asked to do a couple of things, and maybe he, doubles down on the effort and seriousness of it all. And that's just like, it makes sense. But then again, another 2-year deal where maybe he's off the books in 2027 as well, or should be, unless they do something weird. So like, I don't know, that's a lot to throw out there. What is your sense of the Lakers' priorities? And if you do have a sense of that, do you agree with them? Maybe take the first question first. What do you think the Lakers are aiming for right now?
2027 cap space. Like, I just
so
agree
they
with
don't care about chasing a title this season.
I mean, I'm going to ask you right now, as the roster currently stands, where do they rank in the Western Conference? I don't need an exact number, but are they a top 6 Western Conference playoff team? No.
I know they're like they're a third tier, which is anywhere from like 9 to 12 or something in the conference. I'd say.
I don't think. I mean, you could question whether Rich Paul should have released that statement after LeBron opted in, but like that's not the statement of. It felt like a last ditch effort to either convey that LeBron actually was unhappy or to put pressure on the Lakers organization to do something. But if it was the latter, because I've seen a lot of people frame it as that, and I'm open to the idea that okay, sure, but like that doesn't do shit. Like if you wanted to put pressure on them, you would have opted out, but you couldn't because there wasn't any money out there for you to grab. So I don't think that they're focused on winning a title next year, and that makes me wonder, like if they're focused on 2027 cap space, Grant, we're talking about like a 2-year stay of we're just going to go as far as Luka can carry us, and like what is he 26? That's young, but it's not young, and he has a lot of just wear and tear on his body for maybe not being in the best shape, but also just he's played a lot of fucking basketball. Mm-hmm. And you said this, and I've actually repeated this on a couple shows that I've done. You said there's no guarantee his next 5 years are as good as his previous 5 years. And so like every season with him in his prime is still precious. I don't know. I'm not saying that they should go out and trade everything for a Mark Williams again. No, that was also short-sighted. But I don't understand the end game here, to be honest with you. Is it just that they want LeBron's money to come off the books so they could start really reorienting? And who's on board with this? Because LeBron clearly isn't. Dorian Finney-Smith either was and they didn't want him, or he clearly wasn't and left. So is Luka on board with this? Because by the way, he's extension eligible this summer. If he doesn't sign one, like that's got to start, especially after kind of what happened in Dallas and just the injuries he's dealt with. That's going to raise some real red flag. So their offseason, look, the DeAndre Ayton signing is fine. I find it funny that he says he uses criticism as fuel, and what's happened since you've gotten a lot of criticism since 2021. So are you just not hungry? Is that what it was? Like, but it's a fine signing, but it's just their offseason has been wild, and even Jake LaRavia, that's a good addition at that price, just wildly uninspiring.
So a couple things. I think you have to. You have to agree that really it's more the Finney-Smith exit that's just kind of like, oh, so they're not going for it, because you could have, or he just said don't try to beat this offer, because clearly they could have. Like the Lakers would have had no issue. Oh, you want to guarantee 3 of the 4 years? Great, we'll do that. Like that. So that suggests to me, and I agree with you, that like being the absolute best version of the Lakers you can be is not the top priority this year. And I feel like that's risky, one, principally because of the whole Luka like aging performance health trajectory. Maybe it reverses, but I don't know. Like I certainly have more reservations about him aging well than I do about most players. I think the last year and the fact that Dallas moved him, as crazy as it seemed, like it just, I don't know. I'm not super confident. And then we talked about this too. Like, all right, so you're going to wait 2 years and hope that you get a second star that's better than LeBron James is right now. I don't know, man. Like LeBron James is an all-NBA player. I know the runway is not long. I know it could end at any time, but like these two guys together might be the best pairing you have while Luka is there. That's totally possible. So I don't know, that coupled with this like we're waiting for this offseason of caps. I think that's a stupid strategy, especially 2 years out. Like, what are you doing? Like, Luka could tear his ACL and work like tomorrow. Like, we're gonna wait. We're gonna assume everything's gonna be fine for 2 years. I hate that kind of thinking, just because everything changes way quicker than a 2-year timeline. Like, there might be 0 free agents in 2 years. Like, shouldn't that be the expectation? And you have nothing to spend your cap space on like that, based on how the last couple of years have gone. I think that's totally on the table. So, I'm not saying the Lakers like have a chance to contend, but like just deciding not to feels ridiculous to me.
And why so in the chat says it's good on the Lakers for not wasting their 2030s first round pick in some stupid trade. I was expecting them to. Yeah, you're right. They tried. And also, that's not what I'm saying, but like talent retention. So Dorian Finney-Smith is just the perfect example here, to where technically his contract does align with their 2027 cap space plans. Were they not creative enough to think of it? Or again, did he want out that badly, which then raises more questions? The thing I want to talk to you about is What do you view as LeBron's end game with that statement? Do you think he's actually unhappy? What are some? I have trades I could throw at you, and he has a no trade clause. But like, what do you just view of that entire situation? What do you ultimately think he wanted, like by opting in?
What did he want?
Well, it's just like because I take it as, and maybe I'm just misreading how valuable LeBron is, but I would have thought if he's opting in, that's kind of a clear show that like he's not happy with the way things are going. The only other one could be he had no choice because they said we're not even going to give you a new contract, which would be wild.
So I think I like what he wants. I think is to make the decision that guarantees him the most money and like doesn't cost him any face, I guess, because if he opts out and it's just like we're going to talk about like LeBron as a free agent who's going to have to take the mid-level, to go somewhere because nobody has any money. Like that's a look he doesn't want, I don't think. I mean, like that is the side of this we could talk about is like if he really wants to just win, certainly of all players, like he's the guy that no one would be upset about taking the minimum to go just play wherever because he's made plenty of money and nobody's going to argue like, well, now the argument against guys taking less is just like, well, now you're setting a precedent and you're going to cost us all money because teams are always going to expect us to like take a haircut just so the owner can say like as like I understand why players don't do that because it does hurt other players if it happens often enough. But this okay, the next time a 40-whatever-year-old guy wants to take less to win his 5th championship, like, okay, cool, that we're going to be all right with that. Like, that wasn't on the table, it doesn't seem like. A trade wasn't on the table. And so, like, I don't know if I can divine, like, what he wants, but I think what he did was just like, all right, I'll take my money and then trade me or don't. But, like, what are my options? Like, he didn't have any good alternatives if he's not going to take less.
So if he didn't have any alternatives, what do you think was the purpose of that statement being released?
What, just the whole like he is evaluating type of thing, wants to win it?
So I think the 3 options would be he's saving face, he's letting it be known that he would like to be traded, or he was trying to put pressure on the Lakers. Which again, if it's the latter, I just don't see the logic of anything that's been done. Put pressure on the Lakers to get better, by the way, not necessarily to move him.
That is always what the 1+1s have been about, right? Is the threat of him being able to leave. But, like, I don't know that the Lakers would be that upset if he just left at this point. Maybe it's, like, setting things up to where if he does get traded, his side can frame it as, we worked this out because I just want to go win a championship, as opposed to, like, the Lakers are kind of done with me as the focal point, and that's why they traded me.
So you think it's a saving face move?
It's kind of all of the above, but there is an element of the saving face for sure.
So can I throw a couple trade ideas at you?
Yeah.
One, I know that maybe you're going to be writing about, or you wrote about it already, but Harrison from the Spurs, Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, and a first-round pick for LeBron. Who says no? That's how we'll play this.
Who says no? I mean, the Spurs definitely should, depending on which pick you're talking about, the Spurs should definitely do that. I guess maybe the Lakers would say no if I had to pick one just because they think they can do better. I don't know. That's like a cop-out answer.
LeBron can also say no because there's no.
LeBron,
so
maybe that's
as well.
Yeah, maybe that's it because we love the Spurs, we love Wemby, but like their roster is not quite ready for prime time, I don't think, with so many young guards. But like, I don't know, that's a fun thought exercise. The Spurs with LeBron have more title equity than the Lakers with Luka and LeBron this season? I don't know.
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, next one. Dallas Mavericks receive LeBron James. The Los Angeles Lakers receive Kyle Anderson, Daniel Gafford, Najee Marshall, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, and their own 2029 first-round pick back.
Ooh.
The Jazz receive Jared Vanderbilt and 3 second-round picks. So that would be Phillies in 2030, and then both Dallas's and the Lakers' in 2032. Who says no?
I think maybe the Lakers say no to that because they have to waive like 5 guys. I don't know what their roster stands at. Is that how much of that money? I'm sorry, I'm going to answer questions. How much of that money is extending beyond where the Lakers want it to?
So here's the thing. Klay Thompson would be an expiring contract in 2027. Gafford would still have, I think, 3 years left on his deal after that extension, or maybe 2. But you're getting off of Jared Vanderbilt, who would also be
Yeah.
an expiring contract in that. So, and PJ Washington's like really used. So if you were trying to be competitive, this feels like a package where Najee Marshall is going to be off the books by then. PJ Washington, you could re-sign him, trade him, keep him, just let him walk, do whatever you want. And you're getting your own pick back in 2029.
I will say too that a Dallas team with Luka and Gafford and PJ Washington, could make a finals theoretically.
Think about how many of those guys already played alongside
That's what I
Luka.
mean. Like
Yeah.
you're just bringing half the rotation back. It worked. It worked.
Could you
before.
wrap your head around a Dallas team that has Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, and Cooper Flag? I wouldn't know what to make of that roster.
I would very much enjoy that if I were Dallas. That would be kind of fun.
I think, 2 more. This is an easy one, and it's one that I think we've talked about in the past. The Lakers get Karl Anthony Towns. The Knicks get LeBron James. Just straight up, it works.
I'm doing that if I'm the Knicks so fast. It's as much as anything to get out a Cat's contract, I think. But yeah, I think LeBron is way more exciting there.
I agree, I think, because it's the element of, do you appreciate the flexibility LeBron as an expiring contract gives you as a Knicks organization? You might. But also, like, they need Jordan Clarkson. There's a limit to what he's going to do for your offense. Like, getting LeBron as a ball handler. And if you think you have Yabu, you have Mitchell Robinson, Ariel Huckporty, maybe you have another minimum slot. Maybe you could get, like, a Chris Boucher still floating around out there. I would do it if I was the Knicks. I think that would be an unpopular take. If I had to guess, I think Knicks fans would say no. But for LeBron's purposes, do you remember that quote or, like, the story about him chasing ghosts and chasing Jordan in the 6th ring? I really think if he went to New York and won a ring, like, that's a team that hasn't won in forever. That title might count as, like, 2 for his legacy.
That'd be a big one. And I think too, if you get LeBron as the Knicks, this wouldn't be true necessarily for every other team, but like maybe you also just get Al Horford on the minimum now, or like maybe there's a little bit of like, oh, all things being equal, I'm a veteran, I'm gonna go play there. Like, why not? I mean, that there could be some knock-on effects that would be hugely positive if that happened.
Yeah, Weisso says, but then it's a huge risk relying on Mitchell Robinson in the playoffs health-wise. Yeah, that's like the Al Horford of it all. That's why you have Yabu. I don't know what the defense looks like, but it's like going from Karl Anthony Towns to LeBron defensively. I don't know how much that really impedes you. So my final one, and this one's iffy because I think people's first response would be he won't agree to go here.
Okay.
And that's fine. But the Denver Nuggets receive LeBron James and Bronny James. The Lakers get Deron Holmes, Jamal Murray, Peyton Watson, and a 2028 first-round swap.
I don't bump on the he wouldn't want to go there.
If he doesn't want to play with Jokic, you know what? The Lakers should just waive him.
Right, get out of here. You don't know ball. Someone should tell LeBron he doesn't know ball.
Mind the game, my ass.
Yeah. I feel like trading Murray feel like a really seismic thing that the Nuggets don't want to do, even though that contract is probably negative?
I was going to ask, if you gave truth serum to the front office, don't you think they might prefer the flexibility? Because now you don't have to worry about paying Peyton Watson. You get the Jamal Murray deal off, and LeBron's an expiring contract. Even if he's re-signing, which I'm assuming would be the goal, there's like a shorter time horizon on the commitment, and he's also still better than Jamal Murray right now.
That's actually true. And then the Lakers have Murray and Luka going forward. That Murray contract, I don't know. He does it for stretches every year in the playoffs, but I don't feel great about that one.
My gut feeling says it's the Lakers who say no because of the Murray contract, but Murray's experience playing alongside another star, I think him and Luka could do some nasty things on offense. But if I was the Nuggets, I would do this in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Disappointed, not mad. Suns fan asks, with a no trade clause, doesn't the team trading for LeBron have a lot more leverage in asking price, or is there an aspect of the negotiation I'm missing?
I think I was going to say, I think the aspect is if the Lakers want 2027 cap space, they could say, we're not taking on Jamal Murray's deal. Like, if that's their plan as of right now, we're not taking on Jamal Murray's deal. We're going to keep him regardless. If he doesn't want to show up to camp and he wants to make a thing of it, that's on him. But we're already planning for the future. So your leverage to get stuff out of teams would be, and I mean, like, the Spurs package is a good example. That's not a lot. So it's not like you're making out like bad. Even with Dallas, you're getting a lot of players, but that's because Dallas needs to figure out a way to match the money.
Right.
Our next topic is, it sticks with everything we've kind of just talked about. Grant, are teams expecting free agency to become a thing again, specifically in 2027? We have evidence, I guess, that the Lakers, Clippers, and Heat all seem to be prioritizing flexibility for next summer or more likely this summer after. The potential 2027 free agency class includes Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Davis, Trae Young, Steph Curry, James Harden, Kawhi, Jimmy Butler, Kat, Kyrie Irving, Zach LaVine. This depends on how a whole bunch of options shakes out and how extensions pan out. But am I missing something? Is free agency about to become a thing again?
So I would say that if the biggest data point you're looking at in saying free agency is making a comeback or that teams expect it is the list of potential free agents a couple years from now, then that's not enough, because this is always what the list looks like until extensions take off half of them, and then options being picked up take off another third, and you're just left with what we ended up with like this year, where it's like, oh my God, Harden could be a free agent, and LeBron's like option picked up, opt out, extend, re-sign. Like they're just, so that's not enough. I think if you're trying to argue that, one, I guess, yeah, teams seemingly hoarding cap space does suggest they think maybe we'll get back to something where like a player of Giannis's caliber is like unrestricted free agent, like didn't extend, didn't do anything. Like maybe that's what this is. It could also just be like, well, if our choices now in the second apron era are having a bunch of cap space or signing dumb deals that cripple us and force us to trade picks to get off of them or whatever, then we'll just do the cap space thing. That feels like as far as I'm willing to go. It's like, all I know is teams don't want to sign stupid deals if they can help it anymore, because it's just like, it's so much more punitive than it used to be. But like, that's where I would land on it. That's the kind of a non-answer. All right, so you're posing the question, do you think that teams are acting as if like, well, we're just going to get back into superstars will hit free agency again?
I don't know. That's why I was asking the question. And the thing is, I think could they also be coming at it from a perspective of, and this might apply really to only the Clippers, but are they just viewing it as a convenient reset point where some of our stars are so old that it's just better to have that flexibility, figure it out from there. Also, if you just kind of pinpoint a year, like let's say if this started last season, like 3 years into the future, think about how many more first round picks you open up to trade for some of these teams. And so are you just saying you're biding time and flexibility to make that next trade? And the other thing I've considered is, do we see more like Norman Powell, maybe slightly better level players reach free agency because like the extensions just aren't there off rip? And so you're viewing it as, do we get back to a model insofar, because it always felt like you needed to have two superstars, but maybe it's we have the one superstar and then just a bunch of real, because of how important depth seems to be when you look at what the Pacers, the Thunder, the Rockets, even the Cavs were doing this year. Is it that's the model now? And maybe we have a rookie scale max, like we're hoping to hit the lottery there. But it's no, we have our megastar, and we're going to use free agency to get a bunch of other top 50 to top 75 players rather than focus on how do we poach, whether it's via trade or free agency, that other top 10, top 15, top 20 guy.
Yeah, I think that there's something to that. I think just to like take the Rockets as an example, I think what maybe we'll see more of is teams with the leverage to extend guys at less than the max, like the Jalen Green thing and the Şengün deal and Jabari Smith. Like all those guys got rookie scale deals under the max. That didn't used to happen, and that was really hurting free agency. So maybe that's sort of like, I don't know, the trend of guys that used to just be rubber stamped like 4-year scaled maxes or whatever, and sometimes 5, are doing a little less, a little shorter. Maybe there's an option on the end, and those guys get to free agency more than they used to. It's just hard for me to envision a scenario where like the top guys get to free agency at like a markedly higher rate than they are right now, just because if you're that good, chances are you're like running your team and you're just going to be offered extensions. Like Jokic, that came out today as we're recording this, isn't going to extend at his first opportunity, but that's just because he can get more if he waits. Like that's
and you know what it better be, because it better put pressure on. Well, we're going to talk about them in a second.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean. It's hard for me to imagine right now, just based on this list, that like all these guys are going to be available, and really only like the top 2 or 3 are that notable, given their age.
Yeah, it's. This is from Grace. Shout out Grace, friend of the podcast. I would personally not want to move on from Jamal, but if you have if you gave him truth serum, I actually don't know. I think they'd prefer if Jamal were just on a smaller number, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah,
he was
I
just the
think that's right.
quintessential, like, he had all the leverage because they couldn't replace him. So it was very
Yeah.
clear. I mean, like, they signed him after just, like, it was very clear that he was injured, which was
Right.
so.
Well, and he's a good example too. Like, I wonder if today the Nuggets squeeze him a little more, and you don't just get the deal that he got.
And there is a danger because of what the Pacers did with Miles Turner, but they've also been trying to get rid of Miles Turner for like a decade, it seems like. And I think what's more interesting, and we're going to talk about restricted free agents in a second, but it does seem like Chicago with Josh Giddey and Golden State with Jonathan Kuminga are trying to apply their leverage. And it's easier to do it in restricted free agency because you have a chance to match. But I would here's another example. Jason Tatum is healthy, and Jaylen Brown is supermax eligible this summer. He's not getting the deal that he got 2 years ago, right?
No, I can't. I didn't think he should have got it then. Although, like, you just do it because you're where they were. But yeah, I think that's right.
So, Grant, this one's. I'm happy that you said this because I thought when we talked, I don't remember if it was you and me or me and Mort, where I expressed just. I think the Nuggets are the second best team in the Western Conference. I want to make that clear. This is to preface everything that you're about to say. But I had some questions about just the method of operations that it took to get here.
Yeah, I think we did touch on this just briefly, and I hadn't really formed my thoughts on it. I'm still kind of up in the air a little bit. I would say I like a lot about the trade from Denver's side of it. So just they give up MPJ and a 2032 unprotected pick to Brooklyn, and they get Cam Johnson back. We talked a little bit about how like Cam Johnson quietly has been a lot less durable than MPJ, and that's a huge knock on him over the last several years. That's one factor. I think where we landed was like, this can't just be about saving $17 million a year over the next 2 and paying an unprotected distant first to do that. That if that's what this was about, then this trade sucks and I hate it, and Denver should be ashamed of itself, right? Like, that's kind of where we're at. Like, you can't be this good of a team with a player like Jokic and have that be like your big move. I think Johnson might be as good or better than MPJ. I think he's a more well-rounded player. Even with the durability track record stuff, you've got MPJ's back, you've got the shoulder thing. Like, that's a thing. That's a real I know.
What's the case? I'm sorry. What is the actual case for him being noticeably better than MPJ? Like, what aside from if you think that his body's going to hold up way better over the next 2 years, and you think that Michael Porter Jr. is going to average like 41 games played or something, if that's what you believe, and the Nuggets know more about MPJ than anyone, totally fair. But like, you punted on a 2032 first round pick,
right?
It felt more financially motivated to me than it did about talent.
I think the financial component is indivisible from this. Obviously, you gave up a 2032 pick, and it's like, we're debating which player's better. Like that. Okay, that's crazy, right? Like, so that tells you that, like, yeah, they cared about the savings. I think the only way it's okay for me is if the savings are part of the reason that Denver decides, okay, now we can go out and get guys. And so, like, what was it? It's Bruce Brown, and who else did they get that we
Tim Hardaway Jr.
Tim Hardaway Jr. Both on minimums, I think, or like parts of the BAE or the mini, whatever it is. So that's not necessarily, those guys probably were coming on board anyway. So I think maybe what I'm saying is, like, the Nuggets also need to go do something else, and maybe that's Valanciunas, and that hopefully they're able to like work this out, that he actually stays in the NBA. That's kind of where I've landed, where it's like, if it's just the trade with Brooklyn and it was only about money, then I don't like it. But if it was part of a bigger plan to go acquire depth under whatever restrictions ownership has spending wise, then I understand it, because they are trying to make the team better and deeper around Jokic. It's still like, it's an imperfect situation though, obviously, because the finances are a pretty big part of it.
And I think, so this set you up to, because you cut so much money, set you up to make the Saric for Jonas Valanciunas trade, which I think you can reasonably say, if Jonas Valanciunas is going to play, which the reporting is that they're going to hold him to his contract, this could be the best roster that they've ever put around Nikola Jokic, but it's sort of just that, like, at what cost and what was the process here? And I'm also wondering, why do you want to force a player to play for you who doesn't want to be, like, why aren't we hearing more about like retrading him, like especially once the aggregation, like once he can be aggregated again, because in theory, like that allows you to step ladder your way a little bit more because he makes almost double what Dario Saric was on the books for, and I just don't understand. Like, I understand why they wanted Jonas Valanciunas. Don't get me wrong, but like, you didn't have intel that he didn't want to be in the States when you went out and got him, and maybe it was just about. But the other thing too is just like, could this be like they're saying this now, but they're like, he really wanted out. He's going to give back all his salary, and the Cronkies just save a bunch more money. I know they're under the tax right now, so I don't know. I think if you used your 2030, you basically turned Michael Porter Jr. in that 2032 first round pick into Cam Johnson and Jonas Valanciunas, who may or may not want to play for you. I don't know how to feel about that. I think the Nuggets are the second best team in the West, but I think you could have said that independent of all these moves because of what the show of force they gave against that Thunder playoff series. And I'm just like, how many times, like, yeah, it worked out sometimes, like the KCP trade. That was a cost-cutting move before it really was about KCP. But it was just like the Michael Porter Jr. trade, I understand, like, his salary's inflated relative to the player that he is and the role that he's playing, but you don't even know if you got it. It was all about cutting money, and now the backup big you got because of it, you don't even, like, we can't even guarantee that he's there. And so I just have, and by the way, we're celebrating the Nuggets offseason, and you just said Nikola Jokic isn't going to sign an extension, which you said, yes.
Well,
I want to make it clear, he stands to guarantee himself $80+ million more dollars by doing that. But, like, I don't know. I think if I were the Nuggets, I don't think this hurt their team on the court, what they did this offseason. I want to make that 100% clear. If anything, it helped them because you turned, yes, a future first-round pick, which the mystery box appeal, we over-romanticize it, I get it. You deepened your rotation by a factor of one player by making that trade, just because you got Cam Johnson, you got Jonas Valanciunas. But, like, 2032, maybe are we all even still going to be here by now? Who the hell knows? But I'm not set. Phil Brown, like, this is just, does anyone listen? I don't understand. Shout out Phil for, I guess, watching, but I'm not saying the Nuggets, they got deeper, but at the cost of their 2032 unprotected first-round pick, I'm just asking questions. It doesn't mean that I'm tripping.
No, I think, yeah, they're better. And it wouldn't have taken much because they were real thin, and we've been talking about this forever. I think the issue is just like we're not sold that the motivation for their biggest move was like the right one. Right? That's all we're saying is that like it kind of just feels like you like the Porter Jr. contract's not good. I get it. That's like it's also I know it's a distant pick, but it's not like the Nuggets have this massive stockpile of firsts to move. Like that's one of the only ones that they can trade.
They have swaps now. That's it.
So they don't. So that's like a pretty big bullet to fire for them. Maybe it doesn't mean as much to a team that has 13 incoming first, but look, until the Nuggets prove otherwise, they've been making cost-cutting moves, and that has been the reason for it. I think it's great that they maybe coincidentally like got deeper this summer, right? If they're two separate issues, then like I hate the trade. But if it's all of a piece and they're really like that, they weren't going to get Hardaway and they weren't going to get Valanciunas and they weren't going to get Bruce Brown if they hadn't made that trade, then I like it. I don't know. That's all it is.
What do you make of the Jonas Valanciunas situation, by the way? Like, again, if he is going to play, it's a fine pickup. But if he's not going to if he doesn't want to be there, if you're the Nuggets, you can't you save money if he's willing to give back all your salary. No harm, no foul, technically. Mm-hmm. But you have to look at retrading him, right? If he really doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, I mean, what are your alternatives? He's just not going to report, and you fine and suspend him, like that, and then everybody's mad?
You let him leave, which is just so.
So if what happens is they let him leave, and they're like, suckers, we just saved $5 million of Dario Saric salary, and then we don't have to pay him anything. Like if that's what it is, then we really are going to hate the offseason.
So I just have a trade to propose in the event that Jonas Valanciunas doesn't, and I don't think it's Denver specifically. He might just want to leave the States, is what I kind of gathered from any of that. But so my trade would be the Nuggets get Goga Batadze, Ayo Dosunmu, and Jalen Smith. The Bulls get Zeke Naji, Jonas Valanciunas. We know that the Reinsdorfs like to save money, so if he's leaving, you get to buy him out. They also get Peyton Watson and Denver's 2032 second-round pick. The Magic get Hunter Tyson and a 2028 second-round pick from Chicago, top 35 protection. They're towing a fine tax line. If they want to fill out their roster, they're going to be in the tax. And I think with Paolo Banchero signing his deal, we're going to talk about that in a second. I just don't think I'm all for it if they want to do it, but they're not owned by Steve Ballmer. And so I don't think they should be starting the repeater clock. The Nuggets also have a swap. I did get some feedback on this from people. They said it feels like the Nuggets are making out like bandits. Maybe I value Peyton Watson more, but you could include a first-round swap in 2030 to Chicago.
That was my first thought, is like, how quickly can the Nuggets say yes to this? But if you throw a swap in there, and again, they're limited, I think that makes it a little more like realistic. But I still like that for the Nuggets.
But I think that they should be looking to, if he doesn't want to be there, like he can be a retrade candidate, Valanciunas could be. And if he plays, that's going to just make their bench a lot better when it comes to someone who can give you some offense, smash guys on the boards and down low. I don't know what we have next here. Do you? We have, okay. I know what we have next here. This is my question. My question to you, Grant, any chance we see offseason buyouts or waive and stretches become more of a trend? Just look at what's going to happen with Dame. Look at what it looks like it's trending towards in the Beal situation, where the Suns just would rather have up to almost $20 million in extra dead money on their books for the next half decade than just Bradley Beal on their roster for the next 2 years. And then also look what happened with Ayton in Portland, giving back $10 million. Look at what might happen. Like, we haven't heard anything on the Cole Anthony Memphis situation where it was they're going to part ways. It sounded like he was headed towards a buyout. Is there anybody that could be next? Do you think this is just sort of a blip on the radar? Have you just not even like clocked it?
No, I have been thinking about it a little bit, because the Dame thing was so just like, that was shocking, right? Like, and it also made sense, I guess, in Milwaukee's specific circumstances, but I just never imagined that was something that was going to happen. I do think saying that a trend is coming is a little bit too far for me, because like after Dame and Beal and Ayton's a little different. Like, there aren't that many of those kinds of contracts out there anymore. I guess maybe check back on Jamal Murray in a year or two, or like I'm trying to think who else would even be in that, like, this guy's making $50 million and is just like not helpful anymore or wants out. Like, I don't think there's that many guys left, because teams aren't signing players to those kinds of contracts as readily anymore, maybe. I don't know. Jaylen Brown is another candidate, maybe, like down the line. But
I thought you were thinking they're going to waive and stretch him now. Like,
no, I'm just trying to think of like, okay, who could in a couple years be in like a Beal situation or a Dame situation? Dame's different because of the injury. Cole Anthony is very much like which one of these doesn't belong in this group. But I think no, I don't think this is going to be a huge trend. I'd like to use the Wizards as an example, as we have a lot of their players here. I thought maybe some buyouts for like Middleton were possible, but like, I don't know, why not just let those contracts expire? What's it to the Wizards, right? Like the buyout is like, we get nothing for this other than a roster spot. I don't see why that's like a more palatable option.
I think in the Wizards case, it would be, okay, you open playing time for youngsters, to whereas Chris Middleton taking touches and minutes away from Cam Whitmore. There's also trade him.
I don't know.
Well, is that better than just like saving? Because if you don't think you can remove him, so I don't know I don't think it's going to be the start of a trend. But this offseason has been mega weird on that front. I'm almost more just wondering, are teams going to be, or is this just sort of, we're at the front end of like kind of the beginning of the apron era, and now we're going to see like teams are overcorrecting in the face of that.
I think that's right. I think the contracts we're talking about are vestiges of the old era. We're in the new era now. And teams are going to sign players, you know, in keeping with the rules and standards of the day, as opposed to like, okay, once these are all like aged out or whatever. It's kind of like when all the crazy contracts signed in 2016, like the cap spike summer. It's like once those were all gone, it was like, all right, now we can get back to just operating in reality.
Yeah, so I'm going to be. I just feel like Marcus Smart's a name I might be watching, where it just feels like, look at all those guards are on the Wizards now. But I agree with you that we can't. I wasn't trying to infer a trend. This offseason has been weird, right?
There's one. If Embiid gets another bad injury, I bet the Sixers buy him out. Man,
why would he do that? Like, he's guaranteed like $250 million over the next 4 years.
I don't know. He could just chill out somewhere.
Does Matt Ishbia have the worst case of new owner syndrome in history?
Yeah, I mean, modern, like in recent memory, like no doubt about it. I hesitate to even think of
Is there? I don't necessarily support what Milwaukee did. They're just trying to keep Giannis. But on the Beal front, like I don't understand the logic of the Suns at all, aside from trying to save tax money. Because what is the move that you're making, like that you can't make now, that getting rid of Beal is going to allow you to do? I still don't understand. If it's purely financially motivated, again, that's dumb. Like it's just I understand that's a part of like the team building concept, but you can't. Where are you going the next half decade if you have it's a little under 20 million if he gives back the money he needs to for them to make it work the next couple of years? You're going nowhere with just a $20 million dead money cap hit on your books. You can't. I would bet if you set the over under on the number of times the Suns make the playoffs during that 5-year span at 1.5, I will smash the under.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, this shouldn't be a sufficient motivation to think buyout with the type of money we're talking for Beal, but it's like the vibes are so bad. That's like he hates it there. Everybody's pissed off, like on his behalf, even like maybe he's liked by his teammates still, despite it. Like maybe that would be part of it, but you can't just set $100 million on fire, like just because the locker room's got some issues. I think you just send him home, I guess, and say like, we'll pay you. We'll pay your money. You just aren't going to play, and we'll make this a 2-year, stretch of purgatory as opposed to just further crippling our next half decade.
And my final question just on this front is like, and now it just slipped my mind, so I don't even remember it. So I might need to move on. That's awesome podcasting right now. I find the entire thing though just fascinating because it's just we've never seen that type of dead money on the books, and now we might have 2 teams with it. So I'm curious to see if that just becomes anything, or like you said, kind of at the top of this, it just feels like an overreaction to, or they're overcorrecting in the face of what happened with the aprons. And if I remember what I was thinking, because I thought it was a good point, I'll circle back to it.
Let me know. Yeah.
We are on to someone added a Knicks question.
My New York Knicks.
Yeah, Grant's New York Knicks. You could tell by his hat. Grant, what do you make of the Knicks? Just like I don't think we've talked about the Mike Brown hire specifically, and they also the other note. It's on the screen if you're watching that I did want to pick at is Ian Begley said this twice. He wrote about it twice. The Knicks did background on DeAndre Ayton because they like his fit next to Towns, and he also reported that when they signed Yabusele, it was because they liked the idea of him coming off the bench behind Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they've decided Karl-Anthony Towns needs to play with another big, which I think makes Karl-Anthony Towns substantially less valuable on his. Yep. Oh, I remember. Can I go back? Can I circle back to my question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I thought this was going to be Jarrett Jackson Jr. as sort of the litmus test as to why, like, what is the bar for getting a max type deal? And now he did get, it was a renegotiate and extend. So like it ends up being maybe the 4-year max what he could have gotten next year. Is there a player you're kind of watching to where it's, let's see like where because if it was Jaylen Brown, like we said before this summer, I could see it being him. If it was Bradley Beal in his prime, like I'm just, is it weird that I'm focusing on Trae Young and his extension with the Hawks? It's just like, that's someone who is supposed to be your best player, but he's not very clearly a top 2 player. So does he not get a max extension, or is it a shorter one, or is there just another player we should be kind of, or even an archetype? Maybe they're not even up for an extension soon or a free agent soon, but you're looking at them and saying, that's going to be kind of the barometer for where the new contract bars are going to be set.
I think Trae is a great one to test that theory. I wonder if like you can't use like I already mentioned the Rockets rookie scale guys as examples of like, and now Paolo flies in the face of this because he did get the player option that like nobody was getting. The rookie scale ones are harder to use as like a barometer. But yeah, what about like, I don't know, like Ja Morant, the stock is as low as it can get, but like he's not, his next extension won't be a rookie scale one. Trae's probably the best like next in line case for this, I think. Yeah.
So I'm putting a pin in that. I'm happy that I remembered it while we were full-fledged.
Me too.
So what do you make of the Knicks and their decision to Karl-Anthony Towns? It seems like they want to start him alongside another big. And the other thing is, unless you think Dottier is going to do something this year, they're very like wing, going from like, oh, look at wing stop to now they're just very wing light. And they didn't lose anybody that necessarily changes that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, I just start at the top. I think Mike Brown's probably about as well as they could have done. And I think there's a great chance that, like we talked about this a little bit, to where he may not be a better coach on balance than Thibodeau, but he might be as good and he might be a little different, and that might be, net out as a positive. I mean, he will be different, I think, just in terms of like what he prioritizes and the type, how he uses rotation and things like that. Probably more offensively inventive. I mean, I certainly hope so, because I feel like there's so much untapped upside in the Knicks offense. But so the Cat, like, we're not learning anything new about Cat. Like, that he can't be a center defensively. He was good with Rudy Gobert. I think he's going to be good with Mitchell Robinson. That inherently makes him less valuable, because like good shooters that can't protect the rim are just like, they're forwards, and there are a lot of those guys, and you probably want your forwards to do more. And you don't want them to be paid that much. So yeah, it devalues him, for sure. But I don't feel like I think it's the best way to play him, to be clear. I think Robinson adds so much the Knicks don't get from other guys on both ends, that like, yeah, he's got to start as long as he's healthy, and you manage his minutes, and Cat will play some center. But I don't feel like we've had some kind of the curtain hasn't been pulled back. This is like a thing that we knew,
Yeah, and Cynthia has a good question that we're actually going to tackle at the end of this segment, so I'll throw it up there in a couple minutes, Cynthia. It's probably the right call, and we didn't see enough of Robinson and Cat together. They played, I think, through the playoffs and regular season 67 minutes last year. And granted, Robinson missed a ton of time. The Knicks were outscored by 1 point during that time, but they grabbed 42.5% of their own misses, and they shot really well from two. I think I agree with pretty much everything you said, and that if this was your end game, I probably would not have made the Karl-Anthony Towns trade.
Maybe not.
But I do think, like, the problem with Towns at center is when they stash a smaller player on him, there is just data upon data upon data to show that he is so less aggressive. And so if you're putting him in a situation where you can't necessarily do that, I think it puts him in a better, like, offensive mindset. So, and if it's going to come at, you could say it comes at the expense of spacing. Having Josh Hart in the starting lineup comes at the expense of spacing too. So I think this is the right call. If your whole, like, the whole premise of getting Karl-Anthony Towns was the 5-out spacing, and now it seems like you're moving away from that, and I don't necessarily know if you've done enough around him defensively to make the most of it. Because I think the other thing with Mike Brown is, you mentioned the ball movement, the body movement. I think that's going to help the Knicks a bunch, just because Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson were leading very separate existences. And if you look at the passes per game Sabonis and Fox made to one another during their time together, it is a lot more than the number of passes Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns had between each other.
Yeah.
Playing faster, all that stuff. But defensively, he did use Sabonis isn't a good defender, but he had him in some aggressive situations without taking him out of the defensive rebounding conversations. That could maybe benefit Cat, especially if he's playing with another big. So I understand why that's going to be the impetus, but I will say I feel worse. Not even that when you look at what happened with Julius Randle, I don't know. I probably wouldn't have, and I don't think it's a huge miss, and I want to see what Mike Brown does with this team. But if you're saying, not you specifically, but if the Knicks are saying Cat is going to even split his time evenly or skew more towards playing with another big, just at his money, I don't think that, I wouldn't have done the trade then. It's tough. I'm open to being wrong here, but when you don't have, Mitchell Robinson can't play the same amount of minutes or have the same type of impact as a Rudy Gobert. And so when you don't, it makes it even harder when you don't have that caliber of center next to him.
Yeah.
That's what makes me uneasy. The final question before we get to Cynthia's, if you don't get Karl-Anthony Towns extension eligible, they should definitely not give him one unless he's going to lower his cap hit on that player option. If Mikal Bridges, he's eligible for that 4-year, $156.2 million extension, or Mitchell Robinson, who's I think he can go to 4 and close to 90 or whatever it is. If one of them, and I'm not saying he should get the max, to be clear, if one of them doesn't sign an extension, if you're the Knicks, do you just wait until restricted free agency and you do the OG Anunoby dance where it's, they won't cost the max, in Bridges' case specifically, but we have to give them a 5th year? Or do you start looking at, okay, we have Cat on the books, OG's expensive, Jalen Brunson took a haircut, but we got to pay Hart. Do you look at moving him if he doesn't sign an extension?
I think you got to be open to it. It wouldn't be my first choice, but I do think as a threshold issue, if I'm Bridges, I'm not signing the extension I'm eligible for right now. I just that's just not enough. And I'm looking at the teams that are hoarding cap space and saying I could see a few destinations. Like it only takes, like we always say, it only takes one, or everybody always says it only takes one. If there's 2 or 3 teams with cap space, then like do not sign a below market extension right now. Just try it out. So from the Knicks perspective, yeah, if you think the reason he's not signing an extension now is because he's happy to take more from you and maybe not max from you, then you wait. But if it's because he's like, I don't want to be here, which I don't think it is, then you move him and you listen to offers for sure. Cause neither of those guys are important. They're not Jalen Brunson. So like you could add, you could change pieces out around Brunson, and there are Mikal Bridges facsimiles and Mitchell Robinson facsimiles out there. So you can't like treat them as like non-starters in trade discussions.
I agree with you that Bridges shouldn't sign the extension. I think if he doesn't, it makes the trade look worse because I really thought part of the pick equity they gave up, the calculus was he's going to sign that extension and kind of do what Jalen Brunson did and concede that opportunity to hit the open market.
Well, I guess we'll see.
So Cynthia Roach says, Grant, do you think the Hawks and or Magic are on the same tier as the Knicks and Cavs in the East when it comes to their likelihood of making the conference finals or finals appearance? And I will finish that with saying the Knicks are currently favored, the betting odds say, to come out of the East.
And I think number 2 in like championship odds just because they're likely to make the finals. So, of course, they're going to be number 2.
And also, I know New York's a pretty small market, but they might be getting like that interest bump just a
little
bit.
A public team, you're saying?
Yeah, they could be.
My gut is no. Like we both were like, oh my God, watch out for Atlanta and Orlando. Like Orlando, I think we talked about how like, Orlando won 10 fewer games than the Knicks and they had their 2 best players out for like huge chunks of the season. And they added Desmond Bane and Tyus Jones. Like, so I don't know. Does that make up 10 games right there? Maybe. I think if you're talking about like regular season record, maybe that's an easier conversation. But it just feels like, Cleveland's not exactly battle tested in the playoffs. They keep fucking it up, but like, I would still say the Cavs and Knicks are kind of on their own level as far as you're ranking Eastern Conference Finals, like likelihood. But Orlando's clearly better. Atlanta's clearly better. I think maybe the best I'd say is the gap is a lot narrower. Like that's a discussion now. I still lean the more established powers.
I think this just proves to me that we do need to do those. We're going to do tier episodes for each. We got it now. I think I would have the Cavs, the Magic, and then kind of the Knicks and the Hawks battling it out. That's where I'm at. Maybe like I could see any one of those teams finishing with the number 1 seed at this point, to be honest. Yeah. But I like Orlando. I really, really like that roster. And as you said, it wasn't even just their 2 best players missing time. Jalen Suggs missed a shit ton of time. So I
forgot about Jalen Suggs. Yeah, their 3 best players missed a ton of time. Yeah.
So I think they're the second best. I think it goes Cavs, Magic, Knicks for me right now. A lot of offseason left to go, though. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of never mind.
The restricted free agents.
Do you want to take us through this one, Grant?
Yeah, Dan, there are some dudes that have not gotten offer sheets yet. It's very weird. It's almost like nobody has any money. Josh Giddey, Quentin Grimes, Jonathan Kuminga, Cam Thomas, they are all restricted. Hasn't been really so much as a peep on anybody. Obviously because Brooklyn was the only team really that could put an offer sheet out there. There were sign and trades theorized about. Any chance, how about this? Which, if any of these players do you think is most likely to do the unthinkable and sign and play on the qualifying offer with their current team?
I have to, if the answer is who do I think would do it, I'm going to say Jonathan Kuminga because he just seems like to give that quote about him believing he's going to be an all-star feels like because you have to have that self-confidence confidence in yourself, to go that route. Now, do you agree that that's the right answer to that question?
I think I would throw Grimes out there.
Well, I was going to say
on a gut.
If you said who should, let's say one of these players, who's the one that should sign the qualifying offer? Grimes would have been my answer because, quite frankly, we know shit's going to go sideways in Philly with injuries.
Yeah, right. You want to sign up for a long-term deal there? Is that what it's about?
Well, that's also just like I feel like he'll have the opportunity to really continue to prove what he did towards the end of last year still. So, like, because Paul George and Joel Embiid, even if they're healthy, like, are either of those guys going to play in 60 games next year?
I wouldn't bet on it.
So I know there's like a lot of guards now in Philly with VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, but I think Quentin Grimes should be the one. You could probably also make a case for Cam Thomas because he'll get a bunch of touches in New York, but I think Quentin Grimes should be the one. But I think
Okay.
Jonathan Kuminga is the only one who has like the gall to do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's also the one that's just in a situation that, like, he like really relative to how much of a mess it's been. He's actually been like almost admirably like cool about it. Like there was a couple times where things have leaked that he's unhappy with how he's being used, but like
Just a couple?
he's unhappy all the time. Like there were only a couple times that it joined the news cycle. So like, and look, I get it from his side. We've talked more than enough about Kuminga. But yeah,
Well,
like go ahead.
I was going to ask, do you see any of these guys ending up on other teams? And this is the Nets are the only team that has cap space. With the Jazz, they can get to like 18 plus million if they want to. And it would be really funny. I'm just saying to see, even if it's a sign and trade, I would love to just see the emotional dynamic between a team that has Ace Bailey and Jonathan Kuminga on it.
Oh my
at
God.
once. I would love
it. I think Kuminga is I think it's going to be a sign and trade. I don't think this isn't going to happen via an offer sheet for anybody. I don't think. I just don't know how that would even work. So like, I think Kuminga has more suitors, or at least that we've heard about. Like Miami's interested, the Kings, Chicago, I think are the main teams being mentioned. There's just enough. There's enough like to go on to for him, and everybody else is kind of like just crickets. I don't know. Maybe I'm just more into the Warriors news cycle, but I don't feel like you're hearing like so and so is really looking at Josh Giddey. There might be a sign and trade there. I haven't heard any of that.
Who do you think gets the most like guaranteed money per year or the highest average annual salary? I kind of feel like it's going to be Josh Giddey. Is that weird?
I think it's definitely going to be Giddey. I mean, he's been the most consistently productive, I guess, from a standard statistical kind of mindset. I don't know.
Although well, I guess he's improved. Listen, Cam Thomas has been like pretty true to his identity through and through.
He is what he is, man. It's just that's not a valuable thing.
Oh man, we now get to talk about the Orlando Magic. So Paolo Banchero gets the max with the All NBA language in it. So it's either it could be worth up to $287 million, but if he doesn't make All NBA or win MVP or Defensive Player of the Year, I think it's $236 million or whatever it is.
Yeah, how's he going to survive on that?
Yeah, I hope he's okay. One, I'm not surprised that he got the max with the All NBA language. That shocks me not at all. The player option was interesting because I didn't even realize this. We've talked a lot about how they've fallen by the wayside. It hasn't happened since a max contract given out with player options in 2021.
Yeah, nobody's getting them, and I remember thinking like, I'm trying to think who like Mobley I think didn't get one or something, or Mobley got the full. I forget what it was, but yeah, I thought there were way more, and it's like no, it just doesn't really happen. Teams always have been able to do this.
Do you think that there's a chance those come back? Or is it teams still just have all the leverage in this situation? This was the Magic kind of rewarding Paolo for playing in like the clunkiest spacing possible for the past 3 years.
I don't know. I guess he's also got the advantage of like he's a number 1 overall pick. He's been an all-star. Like maybe he just
Anthony Edwards didn't have that advantage at all. Right?
That's true. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I guess maybe it is that. Maybe there's like, hey, sorry, man. Sorry about the last couple of years. We know we needed shooting. Maybe this will make it all better.
Gray Shea says the player option was also what made me raise my eyebrows. Even Ant didn't get one. And so it's just, I don't think it's a harbinger of his unhappiness, but I think it kind of speaks to maybe the Magic took a little too long to hit go or to increase the spacing and offensive firepower around him. Because you don't, like, this was negotiated. Like, it wasn't just like they offered it to. So I don't think there's, like, again, this doesn't signal discord, but if it doesn't happen elsewhere, not that, and we'll get into some of the other extension candidates, I'm just something else I'm going to put a pin in. We're just
Sure.
asking questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'm sorry. I meant to ask, did you consider them the second best team in the East? Who did you have before?
I think it's still Cleveland and New York, and I would say that while adding like it would not be remotely surprising, like you said, if Atlanta or Orlando just was the number 1 seed. I just need to see it. I'm going to trust the known commodities first.
And also, whose max contract do you feel better about, Paolo's or Franz's?
Paolo's. Why is that a question?
Because it is a question amongst people. I don't necessarily see it. We like to look at on-off data from when Franz was playing with against a bunch of bench units without Paolo over the first few years. But just I was just asking questions.
If Franz were a 37% 3-point shooter, I would have more reserve. Like it'd be a closer call for me.
Yeah, but I think Paolo's been pretty underrated as a defender, like for the ground that he could cover. So
Paolo's the guy. The scoring, like the physicality. Like I see him as the best player on a really good team. Franz to me feels like a really high end, like complimentary number 2 guy. He's like the Jaylen Brown to Paolo's Tatum kind of thing.
Have they done enough to where, let's say, Paolo's efficiency doesn't improve independent of his free throws next season? Would you be concerned, or do you still look at it and say, like, I mean, you have Tyus and Desmond Bane. It's not like you loaded this team up with Klay Thompsons in their prime.
Would I be concerned about Paolo specifically, you mean?
Yeah, if his efficiency, independent of free throws, doesn't uptick when you've now surrounded him, in theory, with better spacing.
I see. Maybe a little bit, but like, look, we're still not that far into his career. Like he's still very young. I think this is a thing I'm really leaning into more of, like, even guys that are starting their second contracts, do we think Anthony Edwards is done developing just to keep invoking his name? Like, I don't. I think there's still like layers to go, and I think that's true of Paolo. So I don't know when I'd start sounding the alarm bells, but it would not be this season if he didn't improve efficiency.
We love Paolo around these parts, is the moral of the story. Two quick hitter rounds here. So we're going to start with guards galore. Where are some of these veteran guards going to land, Grant? You want to take us through some of them that most intrigue you? Because there's a lot of, like, these guards could kind of play that are still floating around the market.
Yeah, I'm glad you extended this list, because I threw the 3 bigger names: Chris Paul, Russ, and who else did I put on there? Brogdon, I think. And it's like, well, they all make sense for the Clippers, I guess, in some sense, although I don't think Russ would want to go back there. So you've got Malik Beasley. He's we've got some 2s and some 1s here. I don't like what's going to happen with Beasley. I guess we don't know what's going to come of the gambling investigation, but like this is a guy that what was on the table for him from Detroit, like 3 for 48 or something like that before
342, I think it was.
Okay, where it's like now I think if he goes anywhere, it's a minimum. Maybe you get like the biannual or something.
Did you see this? Can we talk about how do you get sued by a barber, or how do you owe a barber like $50,000?
Well,
was it a traveling barber? Was it like your personal barber that couldn't cut? I just don't.
How good? Maybe we need to scrutinize Beasley's hair. Maybe it's like really good hair, and it's just like only the best.
He's the extent of his off court stuff. It makes you wonder about, because I was giving Detroit credit this offseason as, the Beasley stuff happened, and like I thought they rebounded nicely, and some people have been hammering them. And I look back on it now, like when you have time to think about it, I'm like, well, we all knew about this Beasley stuff, and they like decided to like kind of tether their rope to him anyway. Could you like ever acquire him or pay him, like guaranteeing that he would be a stable presence for you? So
he does not seem like a responsible adult, I would say. And so like maybe that's, I don't know. He's continued to be employed. He has bounced around more than someone like with his shooting ability you would think would, but yeah, I mean, he's going to get a minimum now, right? And like based on what
he might be banned.
He might be right. Yeah, best case scenario, he's going to get a minimum, and like based on his financial situation, that's not going to cut it. I think he's got some real debts and some real issues. I don't know. He's a fascinating character.
I should barber analytics income.
Yeah. Can we talk more about? Can we get a close up of Beasley's hair? Like, how often is he getting haircuts?
He had a pretty basic cut this year, right? I don't remember. Like, he used to have like some, I think, different variations, but
I don't know.
Whatever.
Maybe
that was too
he's
long.
paying for other people's haircuts. Maybe he's just being a good guy.
Yeah, this is all he's. Who was it? Malcolm Brogdon? That's like kind of, I know he has his health stuff, but that's like kind of an interesting name for a team. I feel like, no.
Do you think we're getting, like, how many years in a row is it where it's like, I think Malcolm Brogdon could land there and really help, and then like it doesn't really happen? Is it like year 4 of that?
Well, doesn't he feel?
Time.
We have to see what happens with Beal, because I don't have Beal on here. We already talked about Beal. I also don't have Ben Simmons. Apologies to Ben Simmons. But like, he would make sense on the Clippers finally if they end up not getting Beal right after they just traded Powell.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's kind of true for like DeAnthony Melton, Alec Burks, all these guys. Who else do we have here? Cody Martin, GP2. We better be back with the Warriors on a minimum. I'll be upset. DeLon Wright,
I was kind of
Landry
hoping
Shamet.
I don't know how healthy Melton is. I was kind of hoping him or GP2 or D'Anthony Melton would end up on the Knicks. It's just like guards that can guard up.
Yeah.
Rather than a guard and Jordan Clarkson who can't guard.
No, there was a report today that the Warriors were looking at Melton again. It seems like the 2 weeks he played for them last year, everybody was really.
If you guys get Al Horford on the mini MLE and D'Anthony Melton back on the minimum, I'm going to be irate.
We're just a real privileged bunch out here. Our money goes farther. Except it doesn't. Everything's way too expensive here.
Chris Paul, the Phoenix bells are kind of buzzing, and I saw some people say, "Oh, he wants to start. You can't sign him." I'm like, fuck that. You got Malawach, you got Mark Williams, you need him to spoon feed these guys. Like, they shouldn't fall on Devin Booker and definitely shouldn't fall on Jalen Green. I'm like, sign Chris Paul and start him, and then fix your turnover problem again.
Do you think the Lakers are just out for him just because, why do I want to play with Luka and LeBron? I don't get to do any Chris Paul things. And Austin Reeves. Is that what it's like? He just won't get to do his stuff there?
Right, yeah, I can't. And he wants to still be on the – honestly, he wants to be on the West Coast. They signed Dennis Schroeder. So when I was about to say the Kings. But, obviously he's not going to go back to the Warriors. The Clippers don't make sense if they have Beal. They could make sense now, but they might not make sense anyway because they have James Harden, and Chris Paul and James Harden don't seem to like each other. If he wants to stay on the West Coast, it kind of feels – because he can't go back to the Spurs at this point, right? Look at all those young guards they have there.
You can't play him. You were talking earlier, he's got to be out of the way so those younger guys can play.
I can't think of any team that's even West Coast adjacent. That would be
Portland is on the West Coast technically.
Man,
they got Drew
under
Holiday.
CP3 would be badass though.
Yeah, sure, but he's your third point guard now. I don't know how that works. I mean, Utah's not on the West Coast, but it's in the neighborhood if you're considering Phoenix, and he's not going to Utah. So I don't know. Let's keep moving west. Does he want to go to Dallas? Maybe. I don't know. They got D'Angelo Russell.
Cody Martin's not really a guard, but I threw him on here because I think any team, if he's healthy, should just give him a minimum and let him cook. Where does Russ go?
Man, I mean, talk about someone that we're nearing the end of the line of I think he could help. I have no idea. I haven't even heard anything rumored. Didn't he get some crazy offer overseas or something like that?
I thought that was proven to be false, but
okay.
I can't remember.
Probably a little too crazy then.
I don't have a good team for him. That would just be maybe Miami. Could Miami could probably talk themselves into Paul or Russ.
Yeah. I mean, the Knicks have no.
Not with after Clarkson. They were linked to him before
maybe
that.
he would have had a discussion if Clarkson weren't there. Yeah, I don't know. It's not. He's not an easy fit.
Could Atlanta be a destination? Obviously, again, Chris Paul wants to apparently be on the West Coast, but they have Trae Young, and then is it Kobe Buffkin time? I know Nickeil Alexander-Walker can do some stuff, but in terms of just managing a game,
and Kennard a little bit too.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean.
You're not going to start in Atlanta, though. Trae Young is there. You're not starting in Atlanta for any of these guys.
I really struggle. Unless you go to a bad team. You could make the case that, you could justify starting him over Schroeder if the Kings were, had a choice of, who they could have added. I don't know. Paul might just be better than Schroeder next year. It's possible. Depends on which version of Schroeder you get.
Honestly, what about Milwaukee? They could probably start any of, maybe not.
Who's got the ball there now? KPJ or Ryan Rollins? Those are your lead guards.
I prefer it to be Ryan Rollins. I think.
Sure.
I know KPJ was good for them, but in terms of lead guard, I think I would prefer even Brogdon.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I know people like Rollins, but if you're looking for a place where you could imagine Paul or Russ or whoever playing quite a bit, that's a good start. That's a team that wants to win, would take a veteran, and just you can't say that their point guards are well established.
There's been some people in the chat. We saw the Pelicans floating around for any of these guys. I guess just you have Jordan Poole and Jeremiah Fears there, and what if DeJounte Murray plays again this year? Plus Zion
and Russ on the same team is
Derek Queen needs the ball in his hands too at point. Yeah. Oh God, yeah, that would be.
Kevon Looney's going to need his touches. Also, team option right on that second year of that deal. Does that make you feel any better?
Yeah, that's fine. I won't penalize the Pelicans for that. Then I thought they guaranteed it, which is also why I miss Woj, because I feel like we used to get the contract details better when it was him breaking news rather than Shams. So,
right.
Shout out Woj for being more accurate. I don't think Landry Shamet feels like he had some really good moments in the playoffs for the Knicks. I wouldn't mind if they brought him back, but as a shooter at the minimum who tries on defense, a lot of I don't know if teams are waiting on some of the RFA business to finish up because like everyone who's like really really good is already signed, but like these guys, if they're healthy, pretty much every guy on this list could really. I know Russell Westbrook's a wild card. DeLon Wright maybe aged out, but even Ben Simmons, I'm just surprised that these guys haven't had flyers taken on them yet.
Yeah, Chris Paul back to the Thunder. Just why not?
Yeah, they have all the small. They could play 5 like point guards at once at that point. Caruso at center, I suppose.
He could do it.
So Grant, my question to you is: are you ready to play the rookie extension game?
Yes, I am.
So we're just going to go through these pretty rapid fire of notable names that are eligible for rookie extensions. We just want to know if we think they're going to get one or not. Are you ready?
I'm ready. First
First one up, Ochai Agbaji in Toronto.
I mean, we've even talked terms on him. I think I was on the high end. I'm going to change my guess because I did predict he would get one, and it'd be at least $10 million a year, maybe 15. But now with Ujiri out and everybody's dumping on the Raptors because they have all these like decent guys, and Barnes is better than that, but a lot of guys locked into money. The ceiling feels low. The floor feels like, I don't know, sort of high. So I don't see it for him anymore. What do you think?
I don't either. It feels like they're kind of a franchise that's like in transition, but also wait, and neither is conducive to an extension. If he was willing to sign for like 4 and 60, though, I would probably pounce on it. I'm not gonna lie. I think that highly of him. And if I'm a team and he doesn't sign an extension, I'm calling to see what it takes to get him.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Christian Brown.
I could see him getting like not Jalen Green annual money, but like a 2+1 that is gonna get like a 25 a year, maybe. What do you think about that?
I was gonna say I think he's gonna sign an extension, and I think it's gonna be like close to an average annual value of $25 million a year. And if it's 2+1. I hope people are going to be pretty hard on Denver's front office because they're just begging for trouble at the end of that contract end.
I mean, is he so good that you got to just lock him down for 4 years? I mean, I don't.
At 4 and 100, if he was willing to, like Grant, he did some really nice offensive stuff without Jokic on the court this year. But just as someone who's able to play off Jokic and plays his ass off on defense, like that's the type of and probably hits just enough threes or gives you just enough offense. But If they don't extend him,
25 a year is like 11% of the cap or something.
Yeah, so I think if I was to set it at $23 million per year over under, I think I'll take the over.
I'm just never gonna get over the rising dollar. Like 23 million seems like too much to me, but you're right. It just like that's what it used to be. 14. You know, think of it as 14.
So do you think he gets an extension?
Yeah, why not?
I'm going to say yes as well. So I think we're in lockstep so far right now. Next up, we'll stick with the Nuggets. Peyton Watson also extension eligible.
You'd like to? My knee-jerk reaction is no. Maybe part of it's because like I don't know what I value him as. Like what? Okay, we kind of landed on a Christian Brown figure. Like what is Watson worth? I have no idea.
I just don't think he's shown enough consistency on the offensive end to be in the would you give him the Patrick Williams deal? 5
No.
for well, not 5, but let's say like at like 18 million a year. Is that too high?
I think it is because I have no idea. I think like that's I don't know, but in a couple years that's going to be mid-level money basically. Like I don't know if he's I mean he's maybe a mid-level guy. I wouldn't say that he's shown it yet.
My gut says he won't get an extension because he might be one of those guys that think like a Kuminga type where doesn't have that level of self-confidence, and we don't see him grousing as much as Kuminga does, but he just can see himself in a different situation, and where he saw what they did to Michael Porter Jr., where it's like they scaled down his role and paid him anyway. If they're not doing that to him, he might just roll it into restrict because he's the type of player that if you have cap space next year, which the Nets still could, there's these other teams that are set up to have it, like you could throw. Like, there'll be a team that they might even – that's the thing. We talk about RFA is, like, let them go to restricted free agency and just match. But if they sign a 2+1 offer sheet, okay, you match, but if then they hit, you have, like, a Gordon Hayward situation like Utah did a few years back.
Sure, yeah.
Whoops. We're going to have to speed through this because I lost our place on the thing. There it is. Okay, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson. Who's next, Grant? Dyson Daniels.
I don't think so. I think I feel like he's someone that you should, as the Hawks, be okay messing around with restricted free agency on. Maybe if he has another year like this one, they'll regret it. But I don't know. Like, is he a $25 million a year guy? That feels a little much to me.
I think because of how well he played, you can't sign him because you need him to prove it for another year. Because he might look at whatever Christian Brown gets and be like, I want more than that. And I don't know that I could commit like $25+ million a year. I'd be more like if the same deal's on the table for Christian Brown or Dyson Daniels, who are you taking? Like, who are you more comfortable paying? It's Christian Brown, right?
Yeah, I think so. Just larger sample, like done it at a higher competitive
The other
level.
thing is, and this might be a galaxy brain, but if they don't sign him to an extension, it makes it easier to include him in a trade should they decide to go get Giannis midseason.
Sure. Yeah.
Next up, we have two Pistons. We begin with Jalen Duren. I have no. I hope you have an answer. I have no.
I don't, and that's why I lean towards no extension. I feel the same way about Ivy, except Ivy also has the like, well, what's he going to look like post injury this season? So you definitely don't extend him now because who knows? Unless in both cases, like, put the caveat on all these that it's like, well, unless the team can do it at a rate that's like offensively low, like of course but like what if you're Duren or you're Ivy? I don't think the Pistons are going to offer you a number that you say, like, I must take that now. And I don't think the Pistons are like, these guys are so critical to the operation, we can't let them hit restricted free agency.
I don't think he gets one because it's like you said, if he does get one, I think it's so team friendly. And I don't know what that means because if I'm the Pistons, I think 4 for $80 would make me sit there and be like, I don't know if I could do that right now.
Yeah, the center of it all, being the center position it's just like,
and that's not one that's going to get, like overwhelmed with offer sheets and restrict. Like you're not going to get a ton of offer sheets for center. We don't see offer sheets at case in point this summer.
Right. Haven't seen one.
For center specifically, you're not going to have to worry about offer sheets for.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Jaden Ivey. So what is the number? Is there like a number? Like would he have to if he said 4 for $80? Or you're not doing that either?
I think he's looking at that and saying like Jalen Green gotten more than that over 3 years. I'm as good as Jalen Green. So no, I don't think he's taking that, and I don't think Detroit should offer him the Jalen Green extension. We don't know, like how many years we still don't know if Jaden Ivey is that the guy you want next to Cade? Like,
yeah.
Still don't know. I'm leaning towards probably not, but like I'd be happy if he proved that he was, and I'm the Pistons and I have restricted rights on him for next summer. That's a good situation.
I'm with you. I don't think he gets one either. Tari Eason, who I apparently I outright just predicted is going to be traded.
The Rockets have done some extending, so factor that in. I say no for him too, and the logic is going to keep repeating itself. I don't know that he's the type of player that is going to just like get massive restricted free agent offers. So there's a chance you could bring him back for relatively little. And I don't think he's going to agree to a below market extension now because he's probably confident and he has the right to be.
I actually disagree with you that I think there would be a team if he hits restricted free agency that will give him a crap ton of money. There's the injury history and the minutes totals, I guess, might give them pause. And he's a little bit old. Like for what he'll be 25 if he was to become a restricted free agent. But like, I'm also wondering though, did the Jabari Smith Jr. extension set any kind of precedent to where, so he's going to start, his deal starts at $21 million a year. If you're Tari Eason.
So good.
If you're Tari Eason, are you asking for more than that? And if you're not, like if you're the Rockets, are you going to lock him down on $20-something million a year? This is interesting because I think that his archetype as a player, all he does best, if you told me he was playing 31 minutes a game or something, that's someone that's going to get like OG Anunoby money, I think. But because he doesn't.
I was going to ask you, like, give me a comp of like, who is Tari Eason similar to that has gotten really paid? And so OG is a big name to throw out there. Do you think he's on OG's, like, he's that type of player?
Can't guard all 5 positions defensively, but probably he's going to force more turnovers and be more disruptive that way from the perimeter.
Can he be on the floor? Because OG is a guy that's like, yes, hard yes, he can be on the floor at the end of a whatever playoff
What is
round
your
game.
what is your like cause for pause with Eason?
His offense, his offensive game.
But I mean, like, what about it? He's not high enough volume from three. You don't trust him to put the ball on the floor yet.
A little bit of everything. I think he's just someone that if you're scheming against a postseason opponent, you're like, we're going to let Eason try to beat us. We're not going to guard him honestly. We'll have to keep him off the boards, I guess. But like, I would hesitate to use the Smith comparison. I think Smith might have more defensive value because he could play center. That's a hard debate. But offensively, it's like, well, he's a full stretch and he can kind of shoot over guys. And like, I don't think Jabari Smith is someone opposing defenses will be like, wow, we don't need to worry about him, especially if he improves. Like Eason, that's why I was asking for a comp, and that's why I'm hesitant to say there's going to be a team that's like, oh, yes, absolutely, we need to pay this guy. Just because he's not, I mean, I don't know, for lack of a better term, he's not like weakness-free enough,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I don't know.
I just look at him, what he could do defensively, and even just as a rebounder, too.
A lot of strengths. You're not wrong. A lot of real pluses.
So is Wiseau. I was actually going to bring up the same. Wiseau says in the chat, Patrick Williams probably set a precedent for players like Eason. I don't think the Rockets risk it. That seems smart, but like, yeah, if you're Tari Eason and Patrick Williams got $18 million, like that's the floor.
That's like every guard going like, well, look what Quickly got from the Raptors. I need at least 32 a year. Like if he got that.
I don't know if he gets an extension, and I don't think it has anything to do with the Rockets not wanting to keep him. And there are ways we didn't know about the Dorian Finney-Smith deal until a couple of days ago that it wasn't non-guaranteed. So there are ways that some of their contracts are going to age out as these other guys are continuing to get expensive. He's just a tough one because I also think what we neglect to talk about is a lot of people seem to think that, and we're actually going to get to this in a second, that star trades are going to happen more midseason than over the offseason now. And if you're going to do that, you've already you can still make it work. I want to be clear. But like Jabari Smith Jr., poison pilled. I guess because you have Fred VanVleet, like he'll eventually be trade eligible, but right now he's not. But if you also poison pill Tari Eason, like what are you just saying all the young players we ship out, it's not going to be Ahmed Thompson, so then it's Reed Shepherd. How much do the Bucks want him if it's Giannis or another player? So I'm wondering if, unless he's willing to sign just a deal that they, like the Patrick, like if he comes in and says like he wants 4 for 75 and I'm the Rockets, like I am making sure he signs that before he comes to his senses, personally.
Yeah, that's a good. I'm lower on him than you are, but I'm not low on him. I'm good with that number. That's tradable.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm gonna say he gets 1 just because the Jabari Smith Jr. deal. They could probably point. I don't feel good. I'm just gonna say he gets 1.
Okay.
I think that. And then the Rockets. They might prefer it. It's just like, well, it's drama-free then. If we make a move mid-season, it's because Giannis demanded a trade to us and we traded Şengün or something. I don't know. So
yeah.
I feel that's the worst one I feel about, though. All right, Chet Holmgren, Grant. And is it weird we haven't heard about the extension of Chet and J-Dub when Shea got his?
A little bit. I still think they both, Chet, I don't know, I'm sure J-Dub's next year. I think they're both getting it. I think they're both maxed. I think they're both getting maxes, and if they don't, like, we should be celebrating the Thunder because that's an unbelievable coup, right? Like, I guess you quibble over player options maybe, but like they got to get max offers.
I think they'll get if you had seen that like Shea took less than the Supermax, I would have started to say like, oh, what is going on here? Like, are they all going to take a little bit less? Because Brian Toporek, our colleague at Bleacher Report, has pointed out that the money is so much, right? Like you said it before. You can't get over like $25 million versus its percentage of the salary cap. He really believes the money is going to get so ridiculous that players eventually aren't going to care. But we've also yet to see that. Do you know what I mean?
What does that mean? Like how ridiculous? Guys are just going to be like, what's the difference between $420 million and $380 million? Like that kind of thing?
Well, like look at the Jokic extension he's going to sign next summer. Like there's going to be a point where he hits like $80 million in salary. It's like it's just like. If he signs the max, that is.
It's hard for me to imagine that. If you have some, you always want more. Like that's just because and you can be like that guy's making more. Well, I'm as good as him. If nothing else,
billionaires exist for that reason.
Yeah, I was gonna say like who has ever that's made that much money is like I'm good. I guess it happens. Like Warren Buffett's giving it to charity, but whatever. I would assume. Do you think the Thunder will be able to get straight 5 from Chet and J-Dub, or do you think there's going to be options?
With Chet, I think that he's not going to get a player option. He'll be maxed out. Maybe it's only 4, maybe it's 5. I think it's going to be 5 with no player option. For J-Dub, I think he has the leverage to get a player option, but just because of who the Thunder are as a team, I almost predict that he's going to sign a max without a player option.
Yeah.
But also, if you're them and you're looking at Paolo getting one, you might just prefer having the optionality of, well, I can get paid more at the end of this by opting out.
Yeah. He's a guy that, like, Chet's a little different. 1, the injuries, and 2, like, look, big wings that can handle the ball and score are always going to be just, like, the premium asset. J-Dub is the guy that's, like, if you mess around at all, like, teams will swoop. Like, every team in the league is like, we would pay that guy the max.
Next up, and we're rounding out, Nikola Jovic in Miami. I just included this because I think he's not going to get one just because it seems like they're gaming their books. And also, he's probably less important now than this time last year with the emergence of Khalil Ware, and you have Bam Adebayo, right?
And Powell gives you shooting, like, and part of the appeal of Jovic, even though it's a different position and theoretically more valuable because he's kind of a big, is the shooting potential there. It seems like Miami's not going down that road.
This one's Walker Kessler in Utah is fascinating.
Yeah, right? Like, I think, well, maybe the right question, is he more valuable now or post-extension as a trade piece? What do you think?
I think he's more valuable post-extension at this point. I mean, because Shamit Dua, who I have all the respect in the world for, was talking about how the Pelicans, he covers the Pelicans for In the Know. He just does a great job there, everybody. We're talking about how if he were the Pelicans, he would continue to, they've already made their bed, now you line it, but like he was saying, trade another unprotected first-round pick and X to go get Walker Kessler. And so he views him as just, and the metrics do too, as just sort of like this maybe generational rim type protector. And so if I'm the Jazz, I'd probably prefer extending him and like I don't know what he gets. Like now, if he wants like 5 for 150, then we need to have a conversation. But if it's 4 for 100 or 4 for 90 or something, or 5 for 100, whatever it is, like you probably have to pounce there, right?
I think 4 for 100, I'm doing it. If I'm Utah, if I'm Kessler, I think I probably am doing that too. Just, I'm sure he should be advised by his agents, like, you're a non-stretch, non-switch center. Like, this is kind of the best you can do, and just hope you find a team that loves you as much as the Raptors love Jakob Poeltl, and you can just keep signing extensions there forever. I think if you go above like 25 a year for Kessler, you're kind of asking for it a little bit, just because like he's never played in an environment where winning mattered as an NBA player. Like, he does have real limitations. He has like a couple superpowers, so that's how you get to the 100 million. And I think he's tradable at or below that number. After above that, you like, is Nick Claxton tradable right now? Like, for positive value? Like, not that positive. Dissimilar, probably. Yeah. But I don't know.
He's more switchable on defense too, and I think you could argue Nick Claxton has more offensive upside.
Yeah, but
that's it. I didn't even, you know what? That's a great comp. That's probably, but that's
a very different player. But it's like, with centers, you can't, like, it's not that easy to move them if they're even a little too expensive.
But I think also with the Jazz is like, all right, well, what is their big man situation now? Like, he really is the only true center, because it's just like Filipowski, Marketing, like those guys aren't set. You got rid of John Collins, who wasn't a center, so they have Mo Bamba's cap hold. Does that do anything for you?
Hendricks, remember when we thought Hendricks would be like a potential small ball 5? I don't think that's happening anymore.
Why so want you to stop using the Raptors as an example for bad signing? I just want to know why they're so obsessed with Jakob Poeltl is all. Yeah. Or Jacob Puddle, as someone called him once. Our next guy up is Benedict Mathurin. Can I answer this one?
Please.
If I'm him, I'm not signing an extension that they're going to offer me, because I'm about to eat without Tyrese Halliburton there next year, right?
Yeah. I mean, the expression on his face in the graphic you have is correct. Like, he's pumped. Like, that guy's going to get some shots up.
And they already ruled him out for the season? Like, Kevin Pritchard rules him out? Yeah, you can't. I don't know what, unless they're going to come in and be like, hey, 4 for 100, that probably gets you thinking. Mm-hmm. But as Indy, I'm also like, well, I can't. Man.
He could average 25 a game. Like, no problem. And then he's like, you're going to have to pay me $30 million a year. Like, that's just what it is. Like, I don't.
Is that Bobby Webster?
Probably. Right? Like, I don't know what the number is that the Pacers would be willing to pay him, because clearly the ceiling on Miles Turner is 22 a year. So I don't know how Mathurin gets 25.
John Hollinger brought up. I actually thought he was too hard on them for extending Andrew Nembhard early. but now in hindsight,
I thought
it looks
that
like.
too.
And now I'm like, nope, John Hollinger was right. They could have kept Turner and like they could have just moved their business downward. So yeah, I don't think they're going to give him a competitive offer. And if they do, maybe they would value the certainty of, oh, we know he's going to be $22 million or whatever next year, so we plan our books around that. But I don't think they're very much like they have to figure out how Tyrese Halliburton's rehab is going, and they're not going to have a good hold on that by like opening night.
Yeah, agree.
Our next guy up, who I believe is like our second to last guy, Shaedon Sharpe. This is an impossible one.
Yeah, I've used it several times, but I think more than any other player, the Jalen Green model applies to him. If you're Portland and you're trying to not give him a 4-year deal or not give him some crazy amount of money, I start with the Jalen Green comp and say this is kind of where we're at. And even that I'm not super comfortable with, just because again, not a lot of winning. Don't know about the defense. Don't know about the ability to dribble the ball. Like there's real questions. So I'm not rushing into this if I'm Portland. I don't know what the number would be other than just using the Green thing and downgrading it. 15%.
I can't give him $30 million. If he 20 feels like that would be the number, I'd be like, okay. Yeah.
20 is a chance that's a steal, right? Like if he but 30 is almost like if he is a borderline all-star, you're like, oh, he's more or less properly paid at 30.
Do they just split the baby and go for 25 like we just said? Like,
I guess. I don't think that's getting done. I think it's the Blazers seem to be serious about trying to win this year, and I think maybe you learn more about Sharpe this season than you have in his previous years combined, and then you can make that decision.
I am noticing though, like just the level of perimeter players who are kind of wings, like in there, it does. Restricted free agency could get interesting next year, depending on how many of these guys are actually still there.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Our final one, Jeremy Sohan of the San Antonio. Oh no, we have two more. Sorry, Keegan Murray of the Sacramento Kings. I apologize.
Where has this extension been? Like they love the guy. He's the fan favorite.
You know, Mort had said he wouldn't give him $20 million a year. Am I Keegan Murray pilled? Yeah, I'm giving him 30.
I don't know if I'm giving him 30.
I honestly believe that the Kings, maybe if he's going to be on the Kings, we have to talk about a different story. But I honestly believe that the ground shifting beneath him constantly, like their offensive pecking order, it's kind of hurt his development. I look at what he's done defensively. So you're going to tell me like, oh yeah, he was able to really develop defensively, doing some of the backline stuff, a lot of the perimeter stuff. But like, yeah, well, we're real worried about that he's not going to be able to figure it out on offense. No, if I'm him, I'm not signing an extension. But unless they're coming in,
get out of there, yeah,
right. But if they come in at like, no, I didn't mean get out of there, but like I think
you did.
He probably should want out. I'm not gonna lie, but at $25 million, if I'm him, my floor is $25 million a year in an extension. Like that's what you have to give me.
I mean, I think if you believe the defense, now the defense wasn't as good last year as it was the year before, and the shooting wasn't as good either of the last 2 years as it was as a rookie. But like somewhere in there is a 40+% 3-point shooter that is like not quite all defense, but like right there. 25 is not enough for that guy, especially given his youth, like, and given the situation, like he's just not been set up to succeed at all in any, maybe as a rookie, but he's a rookie. Like you're just way down the totem pole.
And he's been like one of the, if not the single highest volume, like contesting shots at the rim among like wing type players, which is just not something he was ever built to do coming out of school.
No. And just like eminently portable. I think you can still scale him up. There's been a lot of talk about how like this guy just like they've had to beg him to shoot, but it's like, all right, so he's unselfish. Like that's the biggest knock you have. I think he fits anywhere. Like, yeah, he could be a $30 million player. Like, I think that's not ridiculous.
Now we're on to Jeremy Sohan of the San Antonio Spurs. I don't think he gets one. I don't even know what I'd be prepared to give him, to be honest.
I have zero idea of like what kind of offensive player he'll ever be, if anything. And yeah, like I don't, there's not a team out there that's like, we're a Jeremy Sohan away type of thing. So I'm not scared of restricted free agency.
I think it's like you don't really want the ball in his hands now unless he's going to be in transition. And I think they figured out some stuff over the past 2 seasons with him, but he's like a play finishing wing, basically. And so I don't know what you pay that.
I don't
15 a year, I'd probably do.
Holy
shit. I'd give him $8 million a year max per what? That's not even the room exception anymore, right?
No,
like,
man. Keegan Murray getting lowballed out here. Oh, maybe the $8 million of max is for Sohan. I don't know.
That's what I thought it was. If it was for Keegan Murray, then
Even low
are you
for
hoping?
him.
Are you hoping your team? Yeah, I don't think Sohan gets one. But I wouldn't like, especially they're bringing in other bigs around Wemby now. You want? Like, I don't. That's yeah, right. That's Sohan. We clarified in the chat. I assumed it was. If it was Keegan Murray, I had many questions. Yeah, I don't. I think if he was one to sign for like mid-level money, I'd probably just do it. Because it's not going to turn into a Zeke Nashi situation. Like, that's still going to be someone who would have value as a standalone piece.
I guess he's got some utility. He's not an easy fit, though, anywhere. Like, so if you're talking about the tradability of his contract, I don't know. Maybe there'll emerge like some. The shooting, I just don't ever see it. But I don't know. Maybe the point guard thing reemerges. Who knows? Maybe there's some offensive utility in there beyond just slashing.
Next up, Mark Williams, who I believe is actually our final one. Now with the Suns, for anyone who didn't know that.
I mean, this
is now $8 million a year. Might have been closer to like Mark Williams.
Yeah, I'm not extending him. If he becomes a free agent, I'll deal with it. Like I just like what. Why?
What if he says 4 for 48
for like the 20th best, 25th best center? I don't know where he's. Isn't somewhere in there. If you factor in durability, he's maybe in the top 30.
Does it worry you at all if he ends up like CP3's on this team, and so you know his numbers are going to be inflated next year? It's just you have Malawach here. I wouldn't extend him.
I think the hope is like you get to the end of the season, it's like we don't need this guy at all. We'll just go get a minimum center because Malawach looks like he's that good and he's our starter.
Right. So didn't they give up a first round pick to get him? That was number 29. Was that deal? My brain is mush.
I think that's right, but I don't know. Sunk cost.
We have one final question that I need to ask you, Grant. They say the NBA offseason is not complete until we get a post-draft blockbuster trade. Will we get one?
I think I'm going to say yes. And the reason I will is because I like a couple guys on this list here as pretty decent trade candidates. Mikal Bridges being one, Simons being one. Those are probably two of the lower-end guys on here. The Kings have three guys in Sabonis, DeRozan, Levine that are big enough names that I think one of them could move. The absolute biggest names on here, not so sure, but I think we got a shot at three or four of these guys.
I'm going to say yes just to manifest it because this offseason has been pretty bad. And I know there's been the response of, oh, now people have to watch games. It says that, no, we don't because there's no games going on right now outside of Summer League. So I want
is that something people are saying to like look down on people that care about the NBA because of the transactions and like the fantasy sports part of it?
Yeah, which is just like you, as long as you're not promoting toxicity, you follow the game however you want. I enjoy all different elements of it. When there's actual meaningful basketball to be played, yeah, games are freaking cool, and I don't want to write about trades and legacies, but there's no basketball going on right now. And look, the players miss it. Like Draymond Green made that, like you remember them active on Twitter? Like the halcyon days of free agency. Like this is probably my old man yells at clown. Like clown. Yeah, I'm yelling at clown.
Stop yelling at clowns all the time, Dan.
Old man
trying
yells
to entertain.
Old man yells at cloud things. Like I just miss when the off season was just like we were held hostage from July 1st until like July 10th.
I can't say I missed that so much, but it
you
was
have a family,
exciting.
I don't care about you.
It was exciting, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So I know we didn't talk about this so Giannis not going anywhere.
Do you actually think that?
Well, like as far as this offseason, yeah, I do. Maybe the
so you
deadline
think that the Bucks had
changes.
intel that he would stay if they got Miles Turner?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's fair, but the Ramona Shelburne reporting that Giannis is like going to make his decision in August or September, I like to think that Giannis just likes to hold everybody else hostage so that they don't make moves because they think they have a shot at him, only for him to stay. So I kind of agree with you, but I'm just like, if he actually wants to contend, I don't see. And again, if I'm the Bucks, I'm not moving him until he asks for it. I want to make that clear. But I don't see the pathway to. And by the way, you don't move him like proactively because you don't have your own picks, and there's no team. Not even the Hawks could give you back multiple of your own pick. Like they can sort of like 2027's the New Orleans gets the more favorable of its own or Milwaukee's. So it's just like not unless he asked for it. I'm just not. I don't know. I think I'll say it this way. Who do you think has a better chance of being moved this offseason, Giannis or LeBron?
LeBron. I
Right,
mean,
that's
like,
fair.
and I agree with what you said. I think the Bucks are not going to contend, but I think Giannis, if that were the issue, like they weren't going to contend last year. Like this, and he's came, even with a healthy Dame, I didn't like the odds. So like I think I don't think he looks at it quite that way, or maybe he's like, just because it takes a certain level of irrational confidence to get to where he and guys like him have gotten, like he just sees like, well, I'm on the team, so of course we can contend. Like, what are we talking about? And I like it here, so I don't want to be traded. If he were really looking at it clear-eyed in terms of like, where is the best place for me to win a title, it's like he would have seen Milwaukee was not the answer long ago. That's clearly just not the only thing he's thinking about.
I also would. I'm just going to keep an eye on anybody in Boston at this point, including Jaylen Brown. And I'm wondering if Dame signs there on the minimum, do you think that makes it more or less likely that they would view it as like not because if you're going to have Dame and Jason Tatum healthy the next year, do you think they view it as, well, Derek White and or Jaylen Brown are a little bit more expendable to them to make a move now, or is the uncertainty of those Achilles injuries just too much?
And just the Dame being that much older and looking not quite like a superstar before that. Yeah. I mean, I would look, just pure cold logic. Like I would be trying to move Jaylen Brown just because I don't want the back end of that contract. And I don't think you're gonna win another championship with the Tatum Brown pairing. I think if it happens, it's Tatum and you've retooled everything around him.
Do you know what would be a wild trade because they make, and maybe there's like dollars and cents that I'm not seeing when I'm looking at the sheet. Jaylen Brown and Karl-Anthony Towns make the exact same amount of money next year, and you would be getting one fewer year on the Towns deal. You don't really have a center right now in Boston. Is that like, I'm assuming the Knicks have to be the team, or is it like that has to attach picks to that, right? I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns, is he a little? They're probably the same age. The Knicks don't have picks; they have swaps and that fake Wizards first.
Your get Cat off my team agenda has been apparent for some time, and
I think he's a really good basketball player. That him and Jalen Brunson, you're just not like defensively, you can't make it work. And if the only way to make it work is to play him with a Mitchell Robinson, I think you neuter a lot of the offensive appeal. Is all.
That's true.
So, final thing: who's the most likely big name to be traded this summer? It doesn't have to be from this list, but.
Oh, well, I mean, this list is pretty. I'm not seeing anybody. I mean, is Kuminga on this list? Probably not.
I said big name. Big name.
In his mind, he's the biggest. I'll just say, I don't know. I think of the options here, I'll just say Bridges, because I've kind of been kicking around the idea that might happen if the extension doesn't get done.
I'm going to manifest it because it would be absolute chaos. I'm going to say LeBron.
Okay. Not crazy.
No, not crazy at all. This was great. We covered a lot of ground, everyone.
What is crazy, 2 hours almost, and a lot of people that were in the chat at the beginning are still here.
Shout out to anyone. Impressed. If you made it through, one, please throw a like onto the actual video and subscribe if you haven't already, and share our content. We appreciate it. But shout out to everyone who listened to this live through and through. The live element is interesting. It's fun. I like interacting with people midstream. It's also a lot easier because now I make mistakes. I can't go back and fix them in post like I do normally when we record.
It's forever. You're going to be yelling at clowns forever. It's going to be on the internet for all time.
Are you ready to take us out of here before we hit the 2 hour mark?
Oh, I better hurry. Thanks everybody for listening, for watching. If you dropped us a comment or a chat, thank you. Appreciate it. I think we got everybody that's in here, just about we got to at least one of them. So thanks for that. Join our Discord, links for that in the YouTube and podcast description if you'd like to keep chatting with us. Odds are, if you're in here, probably you're already in our Discord. Like Dan said, if you're seeing this on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, make sure you leave us a comment there as well. Wherever you're getting your podcast, rate, review, subscribe, do all that stuff. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Shouts Frank Ntilikina. Apologies, Jared Allen.